Hello, it is 5 a.m. in Washington, it's noon in Cairo. I'm Monita Rajpal, you're watching World One, live from London. Regime is not about to end. That's the message from Egypt's Vice President Omar Suleiman, reported by state media. He is telling demonstrators to go home and says calling for President Mubarak to quit is insulting to the people of Egypt. But protesters in Cairo's Tahrir Square are in no mood to be lectured. Elsewhere in Washington, the U.S. Defense Secretary praised Egypt's military despite their failure in some instances to protect the protesters. The U.S. Vice President Joe Biden says he has spoken to Egyptian leaders to urge them to produce immediate, irreversible progress. One expert on Middle Eastern affairs says right now, over 2 weeks into the protest movement, is the critical moment when an old world dies and a new one is not yet born. That's Professor Fawad Ajami of Johns Hopkins University in the U.S. speaking to CNN's Anderson Cooper. We want to get more now on the situation on the ground in Cairo. Let's go to our Fred Pleitgen there, who's standing by live for us. And Fred, you know, we're just asking about the Vice President Suleiman's statement earlier on state television, reportedly on state television, saying that there was no end of the regime and no immediate departure of President Mubarak. How is that likely to be, received on the ground? And is there a sense that he's not listening to what the protesters and what the people of Egypt want? Fred Pleitgen in Cairo, thank you for that. High hopes and powerful passions 16 days after protests began. Ben Wiedemann spoke to people in Cairo's Tahrir Square, where demonstrators are as determined as ever. We're supposed to help ease tensions between North and South Korea. Instead, military talks between the two sides have ended in failure. But not all the news was bad. The neighbors have agreed to hold negotiations. Supposed to be the starting point. This was supposed to be, they were supposed to be setting up the stage for talks, for higher level talks, but this doesn't look very good.
Well, Monita, the talks have collapsed, as you say, between North and South Korea. Now, they had been going on...
Sports update now, and we have been promised joy, controversy, and the bizarre, all in less than 3 minutes. Tall order there, Alex Thomas.
Yeah, I'm not trying to big up the sports update at all, am I? But let's deal with the joy first. Fusions apart, would you want to do it yourself?
Gross. I'm sorry. For those of you having breakfast right now, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's just wrong.
Not good.
That's all I have to say about that.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much for that, Alex. Promised, you delivered. This is World One, live in London. After the break, the heavy hand of Egypt's secret police. Well, let's take a look at what the world newspapers are saying on this. First, the headline in the Times of Oman is that no one is comfortable with their man in Cairo, the pro-Israel tilt of Egypt's newly appointed vice president. In the United Arab Emirates, the national newspaper there says a pay raise will not put an end to Egypt's crisis. On Monday, the Egyptian government announced plans to raise salaries for government workers by 15%. But the national comments that the government is offering something that the country cannot afford. And in Israel, the Haaretz newspaper there is saying when it comes to Egypt protests, British media reverts to type. It says this about British papers that have called for the Muslim Brotherhood to have a say in Egypt's future. They're saying coming out in support of a democratic revolution. Prosecutors are turning up the heat on Prime Minister Silvio Berlusconi today. They say they'll request he go on trial immediately over accusations he paid for sex with a 17-year-old girl. Mr. Berlusconi denies doing anything wrong and says the accusations are politically motivated. We want to get more on the story now from our Dan Rivers. He joins us here in our London newsroom. And Dan, the prosecutors are saying they want to fast-track this trial. Why?
Well, because simply they think they have got enough evidence. World
One, I'm Monita Rajpal. It's been a long and troubled road for the world's largest car maker, Toyota, but a major report in the U.S. had some welcome news for the company. Investigators spent 10 months looking into cases of sudden unintended acceleration, and as Kyung La reports, their findings handed Toyota a big victory.
For Toyota Motor Corporation,
CNN, Tokyo. Well, Toyota is undoubtedly welcoming the report of confirmation of the reliability of its cars. It's also kick-started a rush of interest from investors. Shares in the company rose 5% in Tokyo this session, closing at their highest in 9 months. Well, let's take a look now at what's trending on social media right now. At number 3, one of the top Google searches right now is London Stock Exchange. That's because it's joining forces with the TMX Group, which runs the Toronto and Montreal stock exchanges. Shareholders of the London Stock Exchange will get 55% of the merged company. At number 2, we're talking about, well, there's a lot of Twitter chat, I should say, about Blaving. That's the name of a new social media website that uses voice messages. You can record up to 2 minutes of yourself talking and share it with your network of friends. It can also integrate with your Facebook and Twitter networks. And at number 1, the Patriot Act is the top trend on social media in the U.S. and worldwide. 3 provisions of the Patriot Act are due to expire next month, and a bill to extend them failed to pass in the U.S. House of Representatives on Tuesday. The Patriot Act, if you remember, dates back to just after the September 11th attacks. The Department of Justice describes it as a measure that improves U.S. counterterrorism efforts. More on the top stories and some great behind-the-scenes video. Another major storm is bearing down on parts of the United States. Let's go back to our meteorologist, Jennifer Delgado, at the World Weather Center with the latest on that. Jen?
Hi, Monita. I know it's hard to believe another winter storm across parts of the land of Monita, but want to point out it's going to get really cold overnight. The skies are going to clear out, and temperatures near about 0 degrees Fahrenheit, 18 degrees Celsius. You're liking it over there in London right now.
Goodness, it's nice being
cold,
over here,
huh?
I should say, on the side of the pond. Yeah, no kidding. Very cold.
Cold even for
All right,
a Canadian
Jen, thank
girl.
you very much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, exactly. Now, she's played a French lieutenant's woman and a cold-blooded fashion editor. She even sang her way around a Greek island. Now, Meryl Streep is about to test her mettle. My favorite actresses. You are watching World 1 live from London. I'm Monita Rajpal. Thank you for joining us. We want to give you another look now at some of that heavy snow wreaking